And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, with the Sunday Razz here on Anything But HoldEm. This is, I think, going to become a tradition for us every Sunday evening at 9:20 Mountain Time, at least as many Sunday evenings as we can. I think we're going to play this Razz tournament and stream it as much as we can. Looks like we've got at least one familiar name sitting at our table right now. Linked to me is someone that we know from our Poker School online play and games like that. He's a pretty tricky player, sitting out at the moment, so he's not going to be terribly tricky in that scenario. But yeah, we'll see. We will see how that goes. Hope you were around earlier for our first ever fixed limit Omaha 8 tournament that Rosalind AKKA was nice enough to set up for us. It was a great success. My colleague at Poker News Canada, Anthony Charter, who plays under the name WTF Anthony, took down the first prize for $6.50. Our good friend Rosalind, who set the tournament up for us, came second. And third went to our other Poker School Online good friend, Fadian, who's always hanging around the Poker School stuff, making life difficult for all the rest of us players just because he's so darn good. He turns out to be he's so darn good in 08 as well, ladies and gentlemen, because he took down third place tonight. We had an amazing what I consider to be a great honor when Ken Lowe showed up. He is literally the author of the book on the dealer's choice. He wrote the book on it, and then he went to Vegas and won and cashed in the tournament at the WSOP. So yeah, I mean, it was great to have him around. He came fifth, but I'm sure that he'll actually probably do a lot better in our next week, which is going to be horse. Next week we're going to play a few hours earlier at 3 p.m. Mountain. I think that should allow a few more of the British fans we have to join in and play. So I'll be getting that information up on the wall very, very, very soon, I think. And as soon as I get finished with this Razz tonight, I think I'll get this up on the wall. And then we will get set for our second tournament next week on Sunday afternoon, my time. Again, thanks very much to Rosalind for setting that up for us. We very much appreciated that, and glad to have that rolling. They're $1.10 buy-in tournaments, so it's kind of the best of both worlds in my mind. I hope it's not too big of buy-ins for some people, but one of the reasons that I really like that is because you end up having some reasonable money in the prize pool at the end of the day, but it's also less expensive than any other opportunity on Stars for you to get into one of these other games, because typically speaking, the MTTs on Stars start at 220 for the games other than Hold'em. There is no 110 that I've seen for any of the games other than this Razz, and I mean there might be a few here and there. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a few here and there, but 220 seems to be the sort of basic minimum. So by setting our games at 110, we're actually going to give a 110 buy-in of some unusual tournament every week on a Sunday for people to play in. This week the password is Twitch Elron, so grab that instead of the last week's password this time when you go to log in. Same advice to find us. Go to the Stars Tournament lobby and search for Elron, E-L-R-O-N, and you'll find us without a problem. Haven't been getting too many great hands so far in this Razz. I've been folding a lot. I think I played one hand and had to fold out of it after a street or two. You came in pretty close to the beginning of when I did. I didn't actually get here right at the beginning of the tournament. I late regged by a couple of minutes. Still is 1 minute of late reg left, but it'll be closing down now. It's only 10 minutes of reg on this tournament, so it never gets to be particularly huge. And it's not like there's people jumping in after an hour of play. Basically, if you haven't decided you want to play Razz by 9:30 Mountain Time on Sunday night, you aren't playing this tournament, is the way that they say it, which I like, and it caps us off. We're at 18 now. We're probably going to end at 18, I'm pretty sure, with $18 in the prize pool, which will give us 3 places paid. First place of $9, second place of $5.40, and a third place of $3.60. We're going to bring in with a 10 on this. We actually have the deceptively strong hand here by bringing in with 10 on the 8. They're not really going to expect us to be as strong as a 5-4 in the back, I wouldn't think, at this situation. And Lebstar could easily be playing simply the fact that he's got a 3 showing in this situation. So I'm definitely going to call through and see at least one more street. The queen obviously is not our friend in Razz, so we're almost certainly going to fold to a bet here from Labstar. With him drawing the 8, he's potentially got a 4 card that ties or beats any of our best 3 card. And I really think that we're not going to draw out often enough to make this profitable to keep going here. You might see one more street with the small bets still, and then fold out on the big bets, but I generally think that that's probably burning your money, burning your 25 chips that you called in the when it was small bets there. Good to see a few people watching. Say hi in chat. Let me know. Let me know who's out there tonight again. Of course, I came up with the inventive name for this tournament, the Sunday Razz, based on my love of the British tradition of Sunday roast. There is very little in this world better than a well-prepared British Sunday roast. I won't say much for British food in general. I work with a lot of British expats and British soldiers and ex-British soldiers, and I've got a fair bit of experience with British cuisine. And I won't necessarily recommend a whole lot of British cuisine beyond perhaps fish and chips. But I tell you what, if you get a chance to have a good traditional British Sunday roast, jump on that chance, because it's a damn fine feast. And I've decided to jump on that tradition and name my damn fine feast of lowball poker on Sunday evenings the Sunday Razz. So hope you enjoy our feast of Razz here tonight, folks. 5-6-7 is a pretty hand in Razz. You'd obviously probably like a 3-4-5 a little bit better than a 5-6-7, but this can oftentimes work into a good hand. We're clearly going to continue on this. We're obviously not really too happy now, and I think if Severi here had drawn out worse, we might continue still and see what happens on 5th Street. But again, I think we're in a situation where we're just burning that 25 chips if we throw it in at that point. I think if I'm working the cards out right, we'd have hit this 3. So that would have actually hit us pretty nicely. But, you know. I'm going to bring into 10 again with this king. Again, I'm a bit deceptive behind with the ace-5 and just bringing in. I mean, one might normally think that a king here would open for completion with the ace-5 back instead to try to take it right down. I think we're going to call through on another street. I think we're probably dead to Lebstar at this point. I'm obviously not too concerned about Nordique's hand, but right now Lebstar could be playing an 86, which has got our 97 crushed and has got our draws largely crushed as well. And given that we're only on a 4 at this point, so we don't even have a made. We don't even really have a made hand. Well, I mean, technically we do with the king, but you know, you got to sort of, in Razz play, you got to discard those kings and queens and things like that, and just consider them not valid cards. It's almost like you've been dealt cocktail napkins in those spots or something, and you just can't play with them, so you just ignore them. But I think we're going to get rid of this because I think we're, I think I'm ahead of Nordique at that point, but I'm way behind anything that Lebstar is likely to be playing there, I believe. So I think it's time to get out. Aha, well, Lebstar was trying to pull one over on us a little bit. Um, 98. So our 97 might have drawn into a winning hand there. It might have been a bad fold for us, results oriented wise. Um, Seeing what Lebstar was doing there is useful for later play as well because we can start to widen the range when he plays aggressively a little bit, um, into including trying to push people off of hands. Go see Fifth Street and see what we get there. I'm obviously not thrilled at this point with the hand as a 10. We're drawing to an 8 if we discount our 10, and we're drawing well at this point. So I think I'm going to check call here. If we get through to a free 7th, and it's awesome for us, of course, we're throwing money in this pot at this point. And taking the pot down. So that's our first real pot that we've contested much of without getting out early. Took down. That's nice. It puts us 375 over the starting stack. Starting stack in this tournament is 2,500 chips. I believe it is 10-minute blind levels. I don't know. 15-minute blind levels. It is 15-minute blind levels. I'm gonna get rid of that with the 9 high. Don't really think it's worth playing. Not against 7 deuce ace. So 2870 puts me in 4th place out of 18. That doesn't really matter at this stage of a Razz tournament. It's pretty one hand, and you jump from 16th to 4th. Is probably what happened to me actually, because I was down a couple of hundred chips, so I was probably down in like 12th place or something. Jumping up a couple of hundred chips puts me in 4th. So the 6-7's obviously playable in a Razz situation. A lot of 7 highs are going to win pots. 76s are going to win pots on a fairly regular basis. But with the paired 6, you're basically playing a 6-card hand instead of a 7-card hand, and that's really putting you at a disadvantage off the start. So you probably don't want to be doing that too often, I think. Nordique seems to have the raise any button as the only active button on his client at the moment. So that will be an interesting dynamic that we'll have to watch. Hyper-aggressive Canadian. It's not usually a phrase that you hear said too much. Usually it's the Scandinavians that are the hyper-aggressive guys. Hyper-aggressive Canadian seems seems a bit like an oxymoron. But apparently Nordique is a hyper-aggressive Canadian by the look of things at the moment. He's been betting like crazy, and at this point I think he's betting into a worse hand. I don't think Lebstar's doing this with nothing again. I think Lebstar definitely at least had a draw at that point to a very good low hand. Yeah, I mean, he was on a 2-3-4-5 draw at that point, and he ends up with the 10-5 and wins it. So Nordique's being a bit weird with his hyper aggro play. Just watching the hand where I seventh out with a deuce and ended up at 7-5. I probably should have bet the bet 6th Street on that, frankly, to get as much value as I could. I think I lost value by checking 6th Street there, so I'm sure the Razz specialists will chastise me for checking my 6th Street there. Jack Queen King is steaming pile of dog poo in Razz parlance. It's not something that you want to play really ever. Apparently, unless you're Nordique, you might play those, but I wouldn't recommend using his strategy to win many Razz tournaments, frankly. I'm going to try not to rag too much on people's play when I do this, obviously, because I don't think that I'm any great player myself, so ragging on somebody else's play is a bit ridiculous if you don't think you're a great player. But the raise any strategy that Nordique seems to be using, I'm not sure is the best way to play fixed limit games. Now, he seems to maybe be coming out good on this one. We'll see how his draws have been. We've got this possibly a 6 deuce up there with Lebstar, possibly an 71. Yeah. So I think that Nordique's tournament is going to end that way fairly regularly with his style of play in a fixed limit tournament like Razz. It might get you somewhere for a few rounds in a free roll, like the Kepler Razz Astronomer free roll. But in something like this, where people have some Razz ability, nobody's going to put a $1.10 down really if they've never played the game before, unless maybe it's some sort of special thing like my stream thing, which is going to be streamed up and. Awesome, Steve. Thanks. Good to see you here. Good to see you here, buddy. Captain Kirk is in the house. Yeah, 9 high, I think, is probably is one of those hands that certainly in certain situations I'm quite happy to put money in the pot, and other times I'm not so happy to put money in the pot. This really situation related hand. Like here, I'm thinking it's probably not a great hand to put money in the pot with, given that I brought in with a 6. We're getting raised by 4s, deuces, and 4s. I mean, I think that at this point I'm folding a 9-7-6 and probably making a good decision by doing so. I also think too the other two cards matter. I mean, a 9 is one thing, but a 9-8-7 is a completely different situation than a 9 deuce ace, right? A 9 deuce ace, I'm definitely playing that, drawn into that. A 9-8-7, well, maybe not so much. Well, I mean, if you're looking for info in the next PSO series versus moi, there's probably 40 or 50 hours of video that I've made this week of my strategy in various mixed games and things. So go have a look at it. Mavrosa, hi, good to see you here. No, this is not Badoogie. This is Razz. This is the low version of 7-card stud. So it's dealt out the same as 7-card stud is, but the only thing is you're trying to go for low instead of high hand, and there's no split pot. It's only the low hand wins. So we've ended up here with a Queen 7, which is not really going to beat anything that Yura's likely to be playing at this point, unless Yura's completely on a bluff, which is, I don't think, really something we want to put 100 chips in on. to a 55 pot, so we're just going to fold that out. We are also on a 3-minute delay. I should actually update my graphics for that. Right, so we're on a 3-min delay now. Just so that everybody's aware of I think we're very happy with this hand. We're happier now, but we're still on a 10-6, which, you know, he might now be playing an 86. He could still be drawing if he's paired his 8 or 6 behind, or if he's got a pair behind. But I'm either playing a Jack 10 or I'm drawing to a 10-6. So I don't really think it's going to pay me to draw very often there. This is, I think, my 5th hour of streaming today. I started off with the Badoogie earlier today. I'm now into the Sunday Razz. Earlier tonight, we did the first ever anything but HoldEm tournament. Tonight was 08. We won't always be 08. We'll be different. Will be different tournaments every week, but this is the sort of Razz hand that you want to get chips in with to start with. This is the sort of starting hand that you really kind of salivate over with Razz. We're going to call through and see one more street on this. We don't really like the street that we saw, so we're probably getting out on this bet now. I noticed my titles were wrong, so I'm just trying to update all of that stuff. I've just added the 3-minute delay on there. You guys should be seeing that shortly, although by the time you hear this, it'll have been 3 minutes ago, but, you know. Yeah, I think that's the deal. It's always a positional thing and a situational thing. All of poker is a situational thing, right? So this is a hand where we've got a reasonably a deceptively strong couple of back cards, but I don't think we want to play to a raise and a re-raise with them, so we're going to get out of the way again. For the record, when I cash in these things, if I go deep at the final table, it's usually 3 to a 4-hour tournament. So, you know, we're coming up on half an hour now, so we're probably looking at another 2.5 or 3 hours tonight, at least, if I go deep. It actually is a pretty simple game. Mav, once you figure it out, it's you get dealt 7 cards. First 2 are down. The third one is visible to everybody at the table. You get dealt 3 more cards up and then 1 final card down. And you have to make a 5-card low poker hand out of that. So the best hand that you'll make is a 5-4 3 deuce ace. That's the nuts in Razz. And obviously there are several ways you can make that because of the various suits that you can get in that. So it's technically possible for Razz hand to be split with the nuts. Split several ways with the nuts, actually, technically, although that's fairly unlikely. Um, but it is technically possible for a Razz hand to be split several ways with the nuts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You actually see it split two ways with the nuts fairly regularly. Not quite as regularly as you would see in a game like Omaha High-Low, but you certainly see it a reasonable amount in Razz. Um, so yeah, basically that's it. It's you're dealt 7 cards. You have to find 5 low cards out of those 7 cards to play, and then based on that, you look at what the other players are showing on their up cards and try to decide if the 5 low cards you're playing are going to beat the 5 low cards that they might be playing. And that's basically Razz in a nutshell. It's probably one of the simplest forms of poker as far as the number and kinds of decisions that you have to make and the amount of information that's given out to you by the other people's boards. Most of the time, it's pretty obvious whether you're ahead or behind. And when you're winning, it's usually obvious based on the other guy's board that you're better than him and you will be better than him when 7 cards are dealt out. So that's much more true in Razz than it is in, say, something like Stud High, where the board can be very deceptive to the strength of your opponent's hand. In Razz, there is no way for the board to be deceptive of strength. If the guy's showing king, king, queen, queen, he's got no good low hand. There's just no other way around it. He's got no good low hand. The guy's showing 9, 10, jack, queen. Well, given that he's only got 3 other cards that you can't see, and you can see that he's showing 9, 10, jack, queen, well, the best Razz hand he can be playing is 10, 9, something, something, something. Because if the other 3 cards aren't lower, then his hand is worse than a 10-9. And if the other 3 cards are lower, then the best he can be playing is a 10-9. So you actually get a lot of information in Razz about the strength of your opponent's hand simply by looking at the 4 cards that he's showing. Or at least about the maximum and minimum strengths of his hands kind of thing. There are ways you can use your board in that way to snow people off pots. When your board shows really low, but you've paired everything with your down cards, or something along those lines, or you've got, king, king or something on your down cards, and it craps out your low. If you're showing ace, deuce, 3, 4, people are still going to be scared of your hand, and they have no idea what you're showing down. So you can not only do the boards of others give you information, but your board can be used to give out false information as well at some times. But it has to be the right board, and that's one of the things with Razz is that it can be a hugely painful game when the draws just don't come your way. When as the streets come out, it's just every card is coming out better for the guy you're against and coming out worse for you, and that can be really, really, really brutal and devastating from an emotional perspective when you're playing the game. So you've really got to enjoy playing Razz. You have to be a bit of a masochist, I think. You have to enjoy some situations where you just get continually kicked while you're down. Because if you can't, I don't say you necessarily enjoy that, but if you can't come through the other side of that with a positive attitude, Razz is not your game, because there will be long stretches of time when the cards just do not go your way, and they seem to be going the way of everybody else and never your way, and it just starts to get really, really, really frustrating, more so than any other game of poker that I've seen. But otherwise, I mean, it's a great game. If you enjoy a bit of pain once in a while, Razz is a great game to play. For other combinations, the way it tends to work is it counts down. So let's say I've got 7 different cards in my 7-card stud hand. Um, the 2 highest cards get discarded because they won't play to make my 5-card low hand. So the 3rd highest card is the first one that gets compared to my opponent's 3rd highest card. And if they match, we go to the 4th highest card in each of our hands and compare those. And if they match, we go to the 5th highest card in each of our hands and match and go there. And at any one of those points, if we get to a stage where our cards don't match anymore, whoever has the lower card at that stage is the winner of the hand. So that's one place where it's a little confusing. Like, for example, if I'm in a hand with 8, 7, 6, deuce, ace, and I'm up against somebody with ace, 7, 5, 4, 3, they win because our 8 and our 7 match. My 6 loses to their 5 no matter what my other 2 cards are. So the fact that I have a deuce ace is irrelevant to the fact that they have a 4-3. My 6 loses to their 5 every time. Alrighty, I'm going to take a quick break, take care of some custodial duties, and I shall return in a few minutes once the action is back underway again. I am back. Didn't really miss much. I was semi-back for a couple of hands once we came back from the break. I was still finishing a couple of things off. But we didn't really miss much. I suppose the 8-7 deuce hand I probably could have played. Um, but when I'm distracted like that, I don't really want to get involved, particularly so. Well, Steve-O, I think it's absolutely true of Razz that you need to be a bit of a masochist to enjoy this game because there really are times when it just beats you over the head repeatedly. So if you don't enjoy that from time to time, then Razz is gonna get under your skin eventually. I used to play this tournament religiously. Um, like every night, I felt that my day wasn't complete unless I finished it off with the 920 Razz every night, and it was like a religious, almost obsessive thing for me for I don't know 6 8 months, probably almost a year, I guess. And then I just kind of stopped playing it for a while. I still love Razz, but I just kind of had enough of it. But yeah, I mean it does kind of get I don't know. I find it gets into my blood and makes me wanna play a bit more. I've been quite enjoying coming back for the Sunday Razz. Um, it's interesting when I was in here last week. I thought it was kind of interesting when I got to the final table. Um, the final two tables, there was two people that I instantly recognized from the time when I was religious and obsessive about playing this tournament. So I'm like, well, there are people that are religious and obsessive about about playing Razz because they were there every night at the same time along with me when I was there, and I come back once for the first time in 6 months, and there they are again. So clearly they're still being fairly obsessive about the whole affair. Let me have a quick look at the people registered. Um, oh wow, and tonight I don't see them. No, it's Maymap and Ebony Adder. Maymap is a Mexican fellow, and Ebony Adder is a Canadian lady. Um, but I don't see them in here tonight. Gordeev was somebody that we saw last week when I played this tournament. He is at the top of the chip stack at the moment, and I'm pretty sure that he was the one that we ended up heads up with at that. Well, I mean, it could be Steve-O. I mean, it is right now. It's going to be what, like 4 a.m. UK time. The guy's been playing for 8.5 hours now. He started at the end of his day basically, and he's still playing 9.5 hours later at 4:30 in the morning. So yeah, I mean, he could very well have nodded off at his keyboard without a question. I had a buddy from Eastern Canada roughly do that in one of the deep stacks a while back. It was they start at 2:30 in the afternoon my time, and it was I believe 4:30 in the afternoon for him because he's in Toronto. Um, and it got to be 4 a.m. his time, and he literally couldn't stay up any longer, and he had to work the next day. So he sat out. He was like, I think he was top chip stack with 13 people left or something. And he sat out, and he ended up getting fifth in the tournament from just from sitting out from there. I don't know what I was thinking about for so long. I think I was chatting, so I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on there. I'm always calling there. I should have actually probably even thought about raising because with the queen there, we've obviously got a great 876. It's not huge, but it's beating any hand that these two guys could currently have. It's not necessarily beating what they might draw to, but it's beating what they have. I think I want to get Lebstar's stack in with this hand, frankly. Um, which we do this time right now. Wow. What a 7th Street. What a 7th Street for him. Wow, 14K for 4th place for a set out. Well, that's not, I don't think when I wake up I'm going to be hugely upset about finding 14K deposited in my Stars account. There are worse things to wake up to in the morning, I guess, than that, even when the reason that it's there is because you fell asleep in the middle of a tournament. So there's 18 people left, or 18 people total in the tournament. 16 left now. We are sitting 13th of 16 after that little hand that we had issues with. 14th of 16 now after that hand finished. Not hugely worried about our situation, I don't think. Obviously not thrilled about it either, but not hugely worried about it. Well, Cadet clearly looks like they're ahead in this hand. Yep, ahead the whole way, frankly. And that's the way it looked. We're in no huge panic with our stack. The bets are getting somewhat large, so we have to be a little careful. But we've still got plenty of time to make a move and do something with this. Do something with this and move back up the chip stacks. Nine, 10, 6 isn't a hand we necessarily want to get involved with. We might, obviously, if it folded to us, we might think about it. But with Severin with an ace here, we're probably not. We're probably not getting involved, anyways. With the 5 deuce back, you could actually think about getting involved with this. Just consider the queen one of your throwaway cards to start with. I think in this case with my stack, I'm going to get out of it until I have a stronger starting hand to go with. Just for the record, when I said that consider the queen one of your throwaway hands, one of my concepts for Razz is that you're making a 5-card hand out of 7 cards being dealt to you. So no matter what happens at the end of 7 streets of cards, you're going to have 2 cards that you throw away and ignore and don't do anything with because they don't help you make your lowest 5-card hand. So as you're playing the hand, if you see a card like a king come out or something, just mentally put it into your throwaway card pile and ignore it for the rest of the hand and still consider, kind of check off in your head that there's 1 card gone, so you have 1 card less that you're drawing to for the hands that you're trying to make. But beyond that, the king is meaningless at that point. I'll try to explain better as we try to explain better as I get into a hand, and I can talk about it a bit more, and explain as it kind of develops what I mean. But it's a useful concept in um, understanding that just because you get a king dealt to you on 4th Street, for example, doesn't necessarily make your 3 deuce ace any weaker, because when 7 cards are dealt out, there's going to be at least 2 cards that you're not using to make your low hand anyways. So just consider that king one of those low hands and keep playing your 3 deuce 1, because your 3 deuce 1 is pretty darn strong. So that's the sort of situation that I'm talking about. When you've got 3 or 4 or 5, well, obviously not 5, but 3 or 4 really strong cards and one that's way out of range, just consider it your throwaway card and ignore it and keep playing the hand. It's pretty annoying that Lebstar's sat out now as well, so I can't even try to get my chips back from him very much. So Yura has gone out in 16th place, one hand to go now, so we got 15 left in the tournament. I am sitting in 14th place out of 15. Antonio should fold there, yep. He's not looking like he's can possibly be stronger than Sever there. I mean, that looked like it was possible to maybe draw out better, but I think even those possibilities were pretty slim. So yeah, folding there was, I think, really his only option given the board texture. Ace 4. I think we probably need to get involved with this. With the ace up, we can get a lot of folds from the bigger hands over here. Royal Cadet's probably calling us. We're going to check through, see 5th Street. The deuce is nice. For the time being, I think we're going to check through and see 6th Street, because we're weaker than he is for sure, but we've got strong draws. We got really strong draws now. I still don't think. I think I want to put some money in now, because, yeah, the odds are good enough now, and my hand looks strong enough from that perspective that he could easily think he's beat there and drawing to very thinly. So with the big bet round there, and with only 300 in the pot, I was giving him crappy odds to sort of continue with a questionable hand, and therefore taking the pot down without having to show anybody my cards, which should always be one of the objectives. I mean, winning at showdown, obviously you need to win at showdown when hands go to showdown, but you really, the more hands you can win without going to showdown in poker, the better off you're going to be, frankly, because poker is about winning as many hands as you can. And when you go to a showdown and you have to present the best hand, you're just not going to have the best hand that often. So winning the hands where you don't have to prove you have the best hand, you can just bet like you have the best hand. Those are key to winning poker. Those are absolutely key to winning in poker, I think. So yeah, try to maximize the amount of money that you can win without having to show anybody cards. I think that there may be times when you lose value and you obviously have to think a street or two ahead, but I mean, I think it's, yeah. This is a hand I'm almost certainly going to get involved with. I'm certainly raising, I think. Um, Although I probably have just as much reason to, well, if he had called the bring in and I was completing, I would have had just as much reason. I mean, I think I'm certainly still calling here, but yeah, that was a situation where I might have called the bring in instead of raising, despite the strength of the hand and the ace showing versus all these other cards. I also think I'm getting called in a lot of these spots, no matter if I raise there or not. Looks like Royal Cadet and I are the ones that are going to be competing for this hand for the most part. Um, I think this is the point where we start to put money in the pot and hope that some of these other guys that are hyper aggressive and are a little unclear on the concept might put money in, but they don't. That's cool though. Like I said, we take money, taking pots down without having to show people our cards and without having to prove we have the best hand is always good. That little pot bumped us up to 11th place now, so stacks are still pretty even for the most part. I mean, a small pot like that, and I moved up 3 places. So this is another one that I'm almost certainly going to do the completion and see what happens. We're definitely betting into the king that just came out. Yeah. The fact that I had a pair of deuces there doesn't matter because he doesn't know that. What he's saying is an 8 deuce, and if I'm betting, he's thinking, well, he's probably got an ace 3, ace 4, something like that behind to go with that 8 deuce, giving him a fairly strong low draw. Um, so that's a spot where you don't necessarily need to have as strong a hand as you're representing to be betting because it looks like you have that strong hand based on the up cards that are showing. Lebstar is back from sitting out now, so it's a chance to get my chips back from him if we get into pots together. This hand is a steaming pile of dog poo in a Razz context. Of course, you love to play this sort of thing in a stud high with the suited cards and with the pair of kings. In a stud high, you'd be jumping all over this pot. But in a Razz context, it is worthless, pretty much. You have to count your 2 kings as your 2 throwaway cards, which means you need to draw 4 low cards to have any hope of competing for the pot in that hand, pretty much. Now, this, on the other hand, is worth playing sometimes. I don't think I'm going to play it for the immediate raise here with the cards that are out, but there are times when, in the case of the king, you have to discard both kings because they're both high cards. The fact that they're paired is almost incidental. King, queen, king, same thing in that scenario. You're discarding both of those cards right off the bat. Deuce, deuce, I'm only discarding the deuces, right? The pair doesn't hurt me in the same way that it does in something like Badugi. In this case, all the pair does is means that one of those twos is useless to me, and I'm playing a 6 deuce 2 card to start with there. So it's an entirely different situation if you're talking about a low pair versus a high pair when you're starting off in a Razz situation. This is one where you might consider calling the completion with 2 people in and see what comes up. I don't necessarily think that there's going to be a huge amount of value in it with the 3 over here. but it's hard to say. I mean, it's something with the ace-5. It's not a horrible two-card hand, and if you just kind of ignore the king and play the 5 ace, you're actually not going to be in terrible shape. For the record, we've jumped up to 8th in the chip standings, but things are so tight that I really don't think that's going to necessarily hold much. We're ahead of 9th by 5 chips, and we're ahead of 10th by 80 chips. So that's how close it is. We're behind 7th by only 200 chips. 7th is Lebstar, and we're only behind him by 200 chips. So, I mean, it's really close, and, one hand, everything switches around. We're down to 14 left, by the way. Gordeev, who was our chip leader early on in that, is down to the bottom of the stack with 1445. Antonio TP over here to our right. Antonio GTP over here to our right is the chip leader now with 8,035 chips. Link to me, Canadian who's quite a strong player that we know, who must be on the other table, is sitting second with 5655. In another context and later position, without the raise from the deuce there, I can play this 3 as a very strong card, regardless of these other two, and try to get a bring in off of his bring in, for a slightly more advanced sort of Razz play. You're going to do that a lot when if Sever brings in with a king, it folds all the way around, and I'm sitting with 3 king king. I'm raising that 100% of the time, just simply based on the strength of the 3 versus the king that he's showing. The 2 down cards I'm showing at that point would have absolutely no relevance on the fact that I was raising that 100% of the time. So it's situation dependent, but you can absolutely use it. Not only would I raise that 100% of the time, I'm going to win the pot 98% of the time outright right there, because he's not going to play his king most of the time. So that's a spot where you can use your up cards to sort of snow your opponent into thinking you've got a stronger hand than you actually do. I'm not sure that I'm technically using the term snowing exactly correctly there. I believe it's specifically relevant to draw games. But nonetheless, I think that basically making, bluffing is roughly the same. So I'm not sure that's exactly a bluff either, because you are playing a stronger card than he's showing. So I'm not sure it's exactly a bluff either. Antonio's certainly on a run lately. Seems to be massing chips like crazy. Yeah, we're out of the Queen Jack Ace hand, I think. Antonio seems to have a bit of the raise any syndrome happening that we saw with Nordique earlier, that caused him so much trouble after he amassed a big stack doing roughly the same thing. One wonders if Antonio will be a little bit more, one thinks that he might be a little bit more adept at managing his aggression than Nordique was earlier. So it would seem anyways. That said, it just seems to be pretty flat out aggressive at this point. But he does seem to be doing it when he's hitting decent draws versus the other people. So I think he's paired his deuce with that, frankly, and I think that's why he folded. I think he's had probably an ace deuce or a deuce three down behind that nine, um, and that paired his deuce. This is the sort of situation where we'd 100% raise if it was sever with the queen and then it folded around to us and we were the last person to act with just severs to bring in. We would absolutely be completing that as fast as we possibly could. Well, it looks like Lebstar's just throwing our chips over to one of these two fellows, Sever or Wash. Yeah, it's definitely looking that way. One of Sever or Wash is definitely taking this pot down. There's no way Lebstar's even competing for it, I don't think. I'd be shocked if Lebstar's even in this, even close to being in this pot. Yeah, this, like I said, I'm shocked that he's even close to in this pot. Right, so our chips have now gone over to Wash. Um, so we'll keep an eye on them over there. That said, I'm not terribly particular about the chips that I take. I will take anybody's chips if I get the opportunity. I'm not specifically looking to get the specific chips that I had back because who knows where those are at this point. But um, nonetheless, it's nice to see that uh, Lebstar is done and we're still playing the tournament. Glad you could join me on anything but Hold'em here today. It's been a long day of streaming. We started the day off with the fixed limit Badoogie and the weekly round two that only lasted about an hour. In that, before I went out, I just was not able to draw anything out. And when it looked like I drew a decent hand, the guy I was drawing against drew one pip better than me. Just the way it goes sometimes in that game, and Badoogie can be almost as frustrating as Razz in that sense when the draws just don't go your way. Um, so we finished that one up in about an hour. Then at 6 p.m. my time, or roughly 4.5 hours ago, we went live with our first ever Anything But Hold'em Sunday tournament. Tonight was the 08, which Poker News colleague Anthony Charter, WTF Anthony on PokerStars, took down in fairly serious fashion. Actually, I mean he pretty much ran over the field. All the way up to heads up, and heads up was a bit scrappy between him and Rosalind, but he still pretty much dominated the whole thing. Rosalind AKKA came second with our good friend Fadian coming third. We were graced with the presence of, really mixed game royalty is all I can say. Ken Lowe literally wrote the book on the dealer's choice at the WSOP this year. And then he went to Vegas and cashed that exact tournament. So you got to think that the book has got some fairly strong skills behind it. It was great to see him here. He came fifth in our tournament. He didn't manage to cash, but he played very shrewdly, I think, in a couple of spots. Gave me some excellent advice on one hand that he watched 3 minutes later in delay and gave me some advice on how I should have played it, and I agree with him after the fact. Absolutely, I should have played it the way that he thinks I should have played it. So looking forward to seeing him. We've got our next tournament already scheduled. It's going to be a horse next week. It's going to start 3 hours earlier at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. So go to the Stars tournament lobby and search for Elron in the search box, ELRON. And you'll see it should be the only tournament that comes up. The password is Twitch Elron. TWITCHELRON. This is hand we're playing. We know that Antonio's raising crap loads of pots, and he's basically got his raise only button, or raise any button, as the only functional button on his client. We sort of expect him to have the surprise that he didn't bet that hand, to be perfectly honest. I wouldn't really expect a bunch of betting on this round. I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised he didn't bet fourth, and he did bet fifth. That's weird, I think. I think I'm getting out of this. That's just weird. That betting pattern is just weird. I mean, yes, he got the ace on fifth, but it's just weird with the pattern that if that he doesn't bet the sixth, then he bets the ace. It's strange. Ace deuce, even with the king, I'm getting involved with this. We're gonna raise up over Antonio because we know that he's playing any two cards or any three cards, sort of thing. We expected him to call, to be perfectly honest. We like that card. That should get folds from most of this field, I think. I'm surprised, actually, that people kept through with that. I have to keep up the appearance of my hand for at least one more street. Now I can get rid of everything because thing is, if I had folded here, they would know that I had something crappy in the back, and I don't want necessarily to give out that information. By folding here, they know that I can easily fold, and I don't necessarily have, it doesn't necessarily mean that my back card is crappy. Yeah, I don't think we were going to compete for that, most likely. Although I think we were on an 86 instead of an 87, so we might have actually been. No, we paired our threes, so yeah, no, we were not in very good shape. We're going to get involved here. This is a fairly strong-ish starting hand. It's obviously not huge. But I think we're liking it now. I mean, we still obviously could be behind a 6 here. I'm liking this because I know that I'm drawing into a better hand than he has showing. His best hand can be an 8 high. So I think I'm putting my chips in this time, and we'll see how things go. Things go well for us. So we chipped up to 2330, puts us in 7th place. I don't think that was a terribly surprising result given the cards that we were seeing, and it wasn't that much of a stress for me to put my chips in the middle with that hand. I was pretty confident that I was putting in was a reasonable amount of value. King 8-3, I don't really need to get involved with that beyond the bring in. Gonna fold that out. Don't really need to be involved, as I said. Just doing a bit of Twitter promotion for the stream. Ooh, that's a pretty Razz starting hand. I think we're pretty happy putting chips in the pot on this one as well. Now, obviously, we can draw out poorly and end up with the bad deal at the end of the deal, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. We are still happy as a pig in shit to be putting money into this pot. We are drawing to the nuts at this point. So drawing to, and we just drew to the nuts. So we are, as I said, happy as a pig in shit to be putting money into that pot. There is potentially an argument for checking there, but there's really no chance that he's going to bet into us. I don't think with the board that we're showing, that just makes very little sense that he would do that. So really, I think betting is our only way to extract value at that point. Betting and hoping to get called by hands that he thinks are strong, but not as strong as obviously the nuts that we're holding. I think checking there, you're just going to get checked back and give him free cards to draw into splits with you, which is not really something that you necessarily want to do. We're going to keep playing with Antonio because we know that he's capable of betting without necessarily having a strong low hand. And although we're only 4-carded, we're still obviously better than the hand he's showing. We are not. We still are better. We have a better draw than the hand he has showing. So he has to draw better than we do in order to win this pot. So we're absolutely putting our money in and taking our draw. I don't think we can credibly raise here because he knows we don't have a better hand than he has now. We know he knows that we're playing King 9 at the moment, and he's playing a Jack at best and Queen at worst sort of thing, which both beat me. So having said that, we now drew into a 9, which means he has to have drawn better than us. We drew very well, so I think I'm pretty happy to put money in this pot. And challenge him to ask whether he drew better than a 9, and I don't think he drew better than a 9. And even if he did draw better than 9, whether his 96 is better than my 96. So that was a value raise at the end. I was saying that I have the best hand, and I'm pretty sure that there are worse hands that you can call me with here. So you know that was I was definitely betting for value at that spot. We're obviously involved in this one as well. I'm not going to raise because of the deuce here and because we think that Antonio might be on a bit of a tilt against us now, and so we don't really want to antagonize him too much. I don't think. Although antagonizing him might actually have him dump some more chips on our doorstep, which would never be a terrible thing. I think if logic is he's not horribly tilted because he was happy to fold there. We need to bet even though we paired our deuce. They don't know we paired our deuce and they're gonna like insta fold to the board that we're showing. So the fact that we paired our deuce, we can't show ever that we paired that deuce. We have to keep betting as though that deuce was the best thing that we've ever seen in our lives. And 9 times out of 10, the person in this position is gonna insta fold just exactly the way Sever did with the board that they had. Again, 6-4 ace, we're not going anywhere with this, especially not when queens are raising. That's just silly. especially not when Antonio has the queen that's raising. That's just silly to be going anywhere. Do I need to raise again? I probably could raise and get more money in the pot. That's probably the best way to maximize value. Um, but in many ways, I think that might chase him away, given the kind of pattern of hands over the past couple of times. Whereas calling lets him dig himself into a deeper hole potentially, if he wants to keep throwing chips into the pot. So I think I'm still happy that my 96 is ahead of Wash's Jack 7. So I think we're happy to keep going. The King's obviously not a friendly card for us, but if we consider it one of our throwaway cards, I think it might be worth one big bet call at this stage. Well, let's analyze the hand. If he draws, he's got a Jack 7 that he's playing potentially. We are playing a King 9. Now, he's drawing to a 7, we're drawing to a 9. Yeah, it does make sense for us to continue in this hand with the big bet round. That actually doesn't make any sense. I'm glad I stopped and thought about that for a second, because the draws, everything that we're drawing to, he's drawing to better than we're drawing to. He's got better than we've got, so it's not a real good situation to be in, I don't think. So our little flurry of hands there has brought us up to 4th in chips now. Link to me is way up top with 13,005 chips. Wash, our fellow on the table here, is second with his 80-10 before this hand. Antonio, to our right, is third with 66.45. So we've got three of the four top 4 stacks on this table. Gordeev has bounced back again from his initially top stack down to bottom stack, now just underneath of me with 3,495 chips in 5th place. So this is obviously a hand that we need to get involved with, and I think raising is the key here. I think that we did the call and extract value from him last time. And yeah, I think that at this point, he pretty much has the raise any button as the only functional button in his client. I'm going to raise on the strength of the ace and the weakness of the other 2 hands. Surprised that Wash called me there, actually. That said, I'm not hugely worried about the paired ace, because I can still use one of them, as I said in the previous. I'm still ahead of him on a 4-card hand, and he's only playing a 4-card hand. So now we may be behind. We've just come to an 8, Jack 8, 4 deuce 1. So he needs to be not playing his king for us to be behind, but I think that we probably need to call. Yeah, he drew out better than us, but it's going to happen from time to time. Let's have a quick look at that hand again. So it's a pretty sick call with the king with the 6-4 behind. I gotta say that's a pretty ballsy call. I wouldn't say it's a bad call, because the 6-4s are decent cards to play for it. Obviously, it worked out for him in that case, but it's pretty ballsy with the king showing. If he'd have been showing something lower, like a deuce three or deuce four, an ace deuce or something like that, I'd have been much less surprised about what he was playing. But the 6-4 isn't the strongest Razz starting two card, and when you're already throwing out one card, you really want a pretty strong two card to be something that you want to work with. Which is what we've got here actually with the four deuce. We could certainly see a street with this, but I think at this stage it's probably not worth it. I don't know. I might have thrown away value there. The four deuce, definitely I think the four deuce is a better call there than or a better play there than the 6-4 by Wash was. I may just be a nit bitch though in Jason Somerville terms. Got a few more people on the stream. Welcome, 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 welcome. Deuce 4-8-10. I think we have to throw some money in this pot and see what at least 4th Street brings us. 4th Street brings us a fairly nice card. I'm happy to let Antonio do the betting for us at this stage, I think, and checking for pot control. I'm surprised he didn't bet with his 6-8 showing. He's definitely betting now when we pair our 3. And I think when we pair our 3, we're probably getting out of the pot. We've got now our 2 throwaway cards already, our 10 and our 3, so I think expecting to draw twice good is probably expecting a bit much. Everyone say hi in chat. Let me know who's out there. Ask questions if you like. Correct my strategy talk if you think I'm wrong. If you think I played a hand great, tell me. If you think I played a hand poorly, tell me. If you're one of the people sitting at my table and you're watching the stream, tell me. Or don't tell me. I don't care. I'm doing this because it's fun to stream and because I enjoy I feel I play better when I talk the hands out, and this is a great way to talk the hands out without feeling like I'm insane talking to myself and alone in my office. I may still be insane in the office, but at least I'm not alone, and that's a key difference in my mind. So please say hello in chat and let us know what's out there. Click the follow button down below underneath the stream here. I'd love to have you come back. We will be doing this on a fairly regular basis. This is actually the 1 week anniversary exactly of my first official stream. I'd done a couple before that didn't get preserved. I didn't have the right buttons clicked in the ether world for it to all work out. So last Sunday evening, the first recorded tournament that I played here on Anything But HoldEm was the Sunday Razz, and so tonight we are bringing a full week of 10 episodes to a close, where we've actually done a fair bit of streaming, and we've played most of the games. I'll have to go back and look at the footage and just see what we've played and what we haven't played yet, but I think we've come pretty close to playing anything but HoldEm at this point. Everything but HoldEm at this point. We're gonna go back and do some of the ones that we like again, and we're gonna play everything over and over again, and we're gonna see how it goes. But we're liking this hand more and more as it develops. So I think we're gonna start being the ones putting money in, and we're gonna keep putting money in because we're still ahead. We know we're ahead. He knows we're ahead. Well, he doesn't know we're ahead, but he thinks that there's a good chance we're ahead. I think that there's still a very good chance we're ahead. I mean, obviously he might have drawn out lower than a 7 that hit him here, but I think putting money in the pot is the way to go here. Yeah, and he drew out on us. I mean, it was. I got to say that the calls that he did are pretty crappy there. I mean, there's no way that he should be proceeding, given the board that we're showing and the board that he's showing. But hey, I mean that's going to happen sometimes. Again, we're putting money in with the deuce 3-4. There's no way that we're not putting money in with this hand. It doesn't matter what size our chip stack is. We're happy to put money in and keep putting money in as long as everybody else is willing to let us put money in. Not so much once the 10 has come anymore. but we'll see what else happens. It's pretty donkey play over here. I mean, I have a feeling that if we're careful and we watch ourselves, he's going to double us up at least once, if not a couple of times, with the way that he's playing. Um, I mean, obviously he drew out on us there. Pretty shocking, actually, that he just called us on that and didn't raise us there when he drew like that. I suppose he doesn't know that we're on an 8, obviously, so he doesn't know his 7 is good. But given his previous play, I'm pretty surprised he didn't raise on that river, or on that 7th, actually. Got a little worried about our stack now. Obviously, we're down to like one big bet pretty soon. One and a bit big bets pretty soon. So we've clearly got to get our chips in and get some draws working for us. 10-7-4 is probably not the one we need to get in on. Being that's not a blind game and you're only getting hit with bring-ins, you can actually wait for hands for a fair length of time. Well, I should say not just bring-ins. I mean, obviously you've got antes as well in a game like this, but you can actually sit and look for hands for a fair bit of time before you decide. Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me about that. But before you decide you need to act, um, because even though the big bet sizes are huge, um, we don't necessarily need to play them, right? We can just fold out of the hands, use the smaller bring-ins, which are like 60 at this point, and we can save chips until we get a big hand that we want to put chips in on. Well, we've hit the break now, so I'm going to go do my custodial duties once again. I really do need an animation of Carol Burnett's cleaning lady up here on my screen for when I go do my custodial duties, but um, we'll see if we can find that for a future edition. I'll be back in a few minutes. good to see you here, Crumb. We're on a 3-minute delay, so the answers will be somewhat delayed. I've just come back from a break as well. That's a tough question to answer, and it really depends on what you're looking for and how you define best. I certainly think that stars, poker stars, and full tilt are have got to be on the list no matter what. I mean, they are absolutely the biggest. They have the most number of people. They run the biggest games. Certainly as far as field sizes are concerned, and I think even buy-ins are concerned, Stars runs the biggest games. Um, they are absolutely scrupulous as far as their business ethics and banking, money handling history and ethics are concerned. Nobody in the poker industry has any um, even thought that um, uh, even thought that stars wouldn't pay you your money or whatever. It's absolutely safe. It's absolutely safe. It's with stars. Um, so they have to be certainly on the list of the best sites. Um, I think that sites like 888 and Party Poker and even a site like PKR are perfectly reasonable sites as well. They all serve a different market and a different purpose. Stars, I think, is definitely the biggest, but it's really hard to say who's the best. Link doing a bit of trash talking. We've hit the final table now, by the way. We're sixth of 8 left on the table. This, of course, being a stud variant, plays 8-handed all the time. Um, for technical reasons, if you do the math with 7 cards out and 8 people at the table, you can sometimes get 56 cards, which is more than there are in a deck. Um, that usually means that there's a community 7th that gets dealt in that case, but that doesn't happen very often. But that's the reason why they don't play 9, is because with 9 people there'd just be too many times where all the cards got dealt out and you didn't have any more cards left to play with. Um, we certainly could have continued there with his queen showing, but we also have to be somewhat cautious with our chip stack at this point. So, and with the way that Antonio's chips are playing, um, or cards were coming out, I think that we weren't in very good shape there. So Antonio got the king before us, so that's nice. He gets the bring in, we get to just quietly muck our king behind and be happy with it. I'm not I don't I'm not really attached enough to the 5-4 to want to play it with this small of a stack at the moment. I mean, there's no reason why at this point I can't still get a couple of double up hands and be in contention here. Certainly why I can't finish 5th or 6th in this tournament at the least, which doesn't pay me any money, and so it's not necessarily any better than finishing here. But I think if I don't have to get all my chips in before Shaggy or Chalabig, I probably shouldn't necessarily. Obviously, if I have a situation where I've got oodles of value by getting my chips in, I'm going to do it. But I haven't seen that hand come through get dealt to my spot recently. So if we get a free 4th on this, obviously it's a great situation for us. Um, course, the free fourth that we got is a pretty crappy situation for us, so we're just going to fold out at that point when we pair our queen. But yeah, getting a free fourth there was sort of like Christmas. Now with the we certainly could have played that, and it's probably being overly nitty of me not to play it, given my chip stack. The ace four is a really strong. Obviously, it's two cards to the nuts in Razz, so. But the queen definitely degrades the quality of the hand. Um, Certainly questionable. I think that I could certainly be accused of being a net bitch for folding that one, and probably rightfully so, and possibly even a valid argument to be made for calling it a bad fold in this situation with my chip stack. However, we did just get one closer to the money as Shaggy busted. This is a hand. The ace 4-10 has too much value. With the queen, the queen degraded it too much, but with the ace 4-10, it's just got too much value, especially with all the big cards showing up elsewhere on the board. I just literally don't think that we can get rid of this one at this point. We have to play this. Pairing the ace obviously sucks, but we're still in for what we can do here. Yeah, I mean, this is just going as badly as it possibly could for us. So seventh, I'm not hugely upset by that. It's not the worst. It's not the worst result in the world. I think a couple of spots we got particularly unlucky where we were behind by a single card, or we got drawn out on 7th Street on a couple of spots for big pots. That's going to happen, so you just have to kind of roll with it and go. That's just one of the reasons why I say Razz. You kind of need to be a masochist to enjoy it. So we'll be back again next week for another serving of Sunday Razz at 9:20 p.m. We'll also be back next week at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, streaming a horse tournament, which is our second weekly anything but Hold'em tournament. Next week we'll be doing horse, which is a mix of limit Hold'em, limit Omaha 8, Razz, stud, and stud 8. That switch between the games every 5 or 10 minutes. So check that out. Reg in, search for Elron in the PokerStars tournament lobby. The password is Twitch Elron. The more the merrier. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to stream from start till end of that. No matter where I finish, I will be streaming and doing commentary till the end of the tournament. So hope you'll join us next week for that. I'll probably be back in the meantime with other editions of Anything But Hold'em. So until then, have a good night, and I hope you'll join with me in playing Anything But Hold'em.